Welcome back. So today we are tackling efficiency, economy, things that actually drive the energy cost of movement. We're going to dig into things like why running uphill feels different than running downhill, why and how stroke volume behaves the way it does in trained versus untrained, and how oxygen use at least ties into what we do in the real world in terms of performance. Now, last quiz, we really stayed in level 1 and 2, that recall and understand levels. This time we're starting at level 2 and we're going up to level 4 because it's good to have a mix of some easier and some more challenging questions. So let's get into it. Pause when you need it. Here we go. And again, we're back to 5 multiple choice question options, trying to shake things up and challenge you a little bit. Question 1, why does running downhill produce, quote, negative work? Is it A, muscles shorten concentrically to increase force production? B, gravity assists movement, reducing the active energy cost. C, oxygen uptake increases to maintain speed. D, elastic recoil completely replaces muscle work. Or E, ATP demand increases due to braking forces. Hopefully you kind of figured out the answer here. Yeah, it's B. So downhill motion minimizes that metabolic cost to a certain degree due to that gravitational assistance. It's allowing you to go down a little easier. Question 2, why does BMR vary with body surface area? Is it A, muscle fiber type distribution, B, heat loss and metabolic rate scales with surface area, C, oxygen diffusion capacity, D, neural activation patterns, or E, dietary thermogenesis? This one is C. Yeah, so surface area influences thermoregulation and metabolic demand, so your heat loss and metabolic rate scales with surface area. Question 3, why does the Harris-Benedict equation include age? Is it A, older individuals consume fewer calories, B, metabolic rate declines predictably with age, that sucks, C, aerobic capacity increases with training age, D, digestive efficiency decreases linearly, or E, body surface area increases over time? Hopefully you got the hint there. It's B. Yeah, sadly, I'm in my 50s now and metabolic rate declines predictably with age. So your age modifies the BMR by, well, basically changing what's happening in your body, all the changes of aging, changing tissue composition, reduced metabolic rate. Not a good thing. All right, some spaced repetition here, a little callback to some prior content. Question 4, why does stroke volume plateau in most individuals as intensity increases? Is it A, reduced myocardial contractility, B, blood pressure exceeds cardiac capacity, C, limited ventricular filling time at high heart rates, D, increased peripheral resistance, or E, reduced venous return due to vasodilation? And this answer is C. Yeah, so a fast heart rate restricts the time, the diastolic filling capacity, which basically just caps your stroke volume, at least in non-elite populations. Things do happen when you have an elite heart, and the answers are a little bit different or skewed. They can kind of keep going and avoid that plateau to a certain extent. Pretty fascinating stuff. Question 5, this is a mini callback to the prior quiz. Why is indirect calorimetry effective for field testing? So recall this one from the previous quiz. Is it A, heart rate directly reflects caloric expenditure, B, blood lactate predicts substrate use, C, VO2 and VCO2 accurately estimate aerobic energy expenditure, D, mechanical power output equals metabolic cost, or E, oxygen saturation predicts efficiency? That answer is C. Yeah, so indirect calorimetry, recall, relies on gas exchange, and that's going to reflect your substrate oxidation of whatever you're eating, going from 0.7 up to 1.0. All right, moving on up. Question 6, what does exercise economy measure? Is it A, maximum oxygen uptake, B, anaerobic threshold, C, O2 cost at a given speed or workload, D, total caloric expenditure per session, or E, mechanical efficiency of muscle fibers? This one's a great one. I love talking about the difference between efficiency and economy when it comes to exercise physiology. And this is C, O2 cost at a given speed or workload. Economy assesses how efficiently an athlete performs sub-maximal work. Economy is great. I love economy. It is an absolute, KPI for me, since I do not have a great VO2 max anymore since I'm getting older. And economy is a great thing because it's completely independent of VO2 max, so I can still perform well if I learn how to move more economically. Great example that I wanted to bring up here, I forgot about this, is the San Diego Velodrome. Every once in a while, I'll be in Balboa Park riding my bike around. I was there like a month ago. This was not me taking a photo, because this is a glorious photo. There's like 2 or 3 people riding around. But on certain days when a bunch of people are there and some guy's flooring it, just hammering, going around and around and around, and everyone's trying to keep up and keep pace, and when everyone comes off the track and everyone takes off their helmet, the one guy in the front, shock of white hair, older guy, but able to hang and keep up with all the young folks because he is very economical as he is riding. It's really cool stuff. I cheer for him when he comes off the track. All right, question 7. Why does running uphill increase energy expenditure disproportionately? Is it A, increased elastic energy storage, B, reduced stride frequency, C, greater reliance on anaerobic metabolism, D, more mechanical work required against gravity, or E, increased air resistance? And this one's C, more mechanical work is required against gravity. The grade adds gravitational work beyond just forward propulsion. Question 8. Which factor contributes most to cardiovascular drift during prolonged exercise? I love the concept of drift. It's so cool. A, increased stroke volume over time. B, elevated parasympathetic activity. C, reduced plasma volume. D, improved myocardial efficiency. Or E, increased blood glucose availability. This answer is C, yes. So drift is that compensatory heart rate increase to preserve cardiac output, because you are sweating and you are losing your plasma volume, and the only way to maintain cardiac output with that reduced stroke volume is to increase heart rate. Moving up again, but I think you got this. Again, question 9. During extended, moderate exercise, which variable typically drifts downward? Another drifty question. Is it A, heart rate, B, cardiac output, C, stroke volume, D, oxygen uptake, or E, blood pressure? Gosh, I hope it's not oxygen uptake. That would not be good. It is C, stroke volume. So your stroke volume falls as that blood volume shifts and dehydration accumulates. More drifty kind of things here. So just keep thinking of that drift in order to get this answer right. And the last question. What primarily explains the oxygen deficit at the start of aerobic exercise? Is it A, immediate oxygen delivery failure? Hope not. B, reduced lung diffusion capacity. C, acceptor control limitations at the mitochondria. D, inadequate hemoglobin concentration. Or E, delayed heart response. So it's a little callback, going back from the concept of the initial oxygen deficit and then the epoch after. This is the acceptor control. So oxygen deficit, right, reflects that lag in mitochondrial activation, and it's really due to the ADP-ATP balance and this whole concept of acceptor control. It is a really neat concept. That's it. Hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it, and I'll see you again in the next video.